So I have a serious question for you. How do you know when you're being had on the spiritual path? And the reason why I ask this question is because, believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to con you. I mean, overall, the con men are relatively few, but 100% there are people who are trying to deceive you and just get your money off you. But aside from those con men, then there's also a lot of people who are trying to sell you something that's bogus. I'm talking about bogus spirituality. Now, I noticed that YouTube will try to put ads on your channel that are relevant to your content. And so I get a lot of ads that seem to be somehow related to spirituality and meditation popping up on my channel. And then the other day, I thought I'd have a look at one of these to see what it's all about. Now, what they're claiming is that they can teach you how to jump into different multiverses. The first thing I saw was that this service costs $600 a year. They have an app as well that's associated with this website. What they're promising you is the ability to jump to other multiverses and there to retrieve qualities or abilities from other copies of yourself, and then use those abilities in your current life, in this world. So we've heard about quantum mechanics, and as you know, quantum mechanics is a theory, right? It's not a fact. It's a way of interpreting reality. And within that, then there are different hypotheses about how it is that the quantum reality resolves itself into apparent reality, the ordinary world that we experience every day. And one of these is a theory about multiverses. So it's not something that's been proven. It's just basically a nice sounding idea. So whether or not multiverses exist, well, that's debatable. Whether or not you can jump to another multiverse is also debatable. It's highly unlikely. It's also highly unlikely that somebody could teach you to do such a thing for as little as $600 a year. But there's something else here. Whenever you approach somebody who's promising you spiritual abilities and power, you have to use your logic and your instinct. In general, what these organizations do is they prey on our fear and our anxiety. They're aware that many of us are quite desperate in the mundane world. We're looking for something else. We're looking for happiness and peace. And because of that, we're what you could call desperate. And so we're willing to try anything. So before you commit yourself to something like this, what you need to do is try to think about what's going on here. Now, the first thing that jumped into my mind was, if this individual had the ability to access multiple universes, to acquire skills and abilities from other copies of themselves and bring them back to this world, then why on earth would they need my money? I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. I could travel to another universe and bring back advanced technology that doesn't exist here on the planet Earth, and by that, in a relatively short period of time, become the richest person on Earth. If I could bring back, let's say, the technology for a space lift, it's basically anti-gravity technology, then there would be no need, for example, to build huge rockets to put these payloads into space. Literally overnight, I would become the most influential and powerful person on the planet. Of course, this might get me killed. So somebody who has this ability doesn't need my money. It's absolutely ridiculous. For example, there are people promising the manifestation of abundance. So what I gather, this is a type of meditation practice or spiritual practice that allows you to manifest wealth. And it'll cost you $50 a month, let's say. $500 a year. It's the same thing. It doesn't make sense, right? If somebody has mastered the manifestation of abundance, then they don't need money. They can create it out of thin air through their practice. So why would they need to charge me? And if they had a spiritual outlook, that means if they were benevolent, then of course, if they could, they would offer these services for free. Now the question is, why do we fall prey to these charlatans? Well, it's largely our own fault. Because we have this habit for wishful thinking. We're always looking for shortcuts in life and the spiritual path. So here's the first principle you need to understand. And this applies as much as it does to the spiritual path as it does to the mundane world. And that is, in the words of Stephen Hawking, there is no free lunch in the universe. This is a universal truth. But it's because we're looking for this free lunch, this free ticket to heaven, that we allow ourselves to be conned. We think that we can make a shortcut, avoid all the difficult bits, and then become Buddha. Right, if you have faith in the Buddha, then ask yourself, what is taught in the Buddha Dharma is that there is no more capable sort of individual than a Buddha, and that a Buddha is a fully enlightened being. If the Buddha had such high levels of ability, and not only that, had attained the supreme goal of final enlightenment, well, if there was such a shortcut, then why on earth didn't the Buddha teach it? I mean, why teach all the difficult bits? Why tell people they had to give up their worldly life? Give up luxurious food, chasing after the things they desire, live in isolation, meditate, study. Why would the Buddha say that if there was an easy way to do it, a shortcut? But this is the problem. We don't use our logical reasoning. We're too impulsive. And we're impulsive because we're desperate. So basically, if somebody's selling you a shortcut, especially if they're selling it to you for money or favor, then you should be highly suspicious. And if they can teach you these things, if they've realized the results of these high levels of practice, then you have to ask yourself, then what do they need from me? Why on earth would they need my money or my labor or whatever they're asking for? In general, then these charlatans prey on the weak. They prey on the vulnerable. If it truly was the case that spiritual awakening was something that could be purchased, like goods from the market, then why on earth did the masters of the past, like the Buddha and Milarepa, give up on their worldly lives? As I said, there's another category. It's not people who are just pure charlatans, but those are people who are selling you a defective product. They're selling you a spiritual path that doesn't bring results. And in general then, this comes at a cost. There's usually a price associated with these kind of instructions. And that's because the people who are selling this Dharma are worldly. They're not spiritual beings. In general, this is the way that you can check out your teachers. You just have to look what they see to be important. If they see wealth and fame and influence to be the most important thing, then it's 100% sure that they're worldly beings and not spiritual beings. I've told you the story of Patrul Rinpoche in the past. And when people, out of faith, made offerings to him, let's say of silver or gold, then Patrul Rinpoche would just discard that in the dust. He had no more concern for wealth, status, fame, and position than he did for excrement lying on the ground. People who are selling defective goods in the Dharma aren't necessarily evil-minded. It's just that they don't understand the spiritual path themselves. They have completely worldly ways of thinking, and so, once they've got a bit of meditation under their belt, they want to become a teacher. They want to become a teacher, they want to gather students, and they want to sell the Dharma. But selling the Dharma is an extremely negative act. And the reason why is by selling the Dharma, then we destroy the spiritual path for others. We have this very strong mindset that things of value cost a lot of money. And so if we hear of a teaching going on and it's for free, we think there's something wrong with it. We think that's defective. And likewise, if we hear about something like the Mahamudra, which is supposed to be the highest level of teaching, then we expect to pay for that. And in many places, then the seats in the front cost more than the seats at the back. It's a bit like going to a rock concert. But this isn't the way that it's done by authentic masters. In fact, in the past, it was unheard of that one should buy a ticket or purchase teachings from a lama. And sadly, this very Western tradition now has infected the East, and it's become quite common for people to sell tickets to teaching sessions, spiritual teaching sessions, Dharma teaching sessions in Nepal and India. Don't let yourself be fooled by those who are peddling their wares in the marketplaces of Samsara. And there are many stories of people who, as they embark on their spiritual path, through their enthusiasm, end up burning all their resources, all their wealth. They think, I'm a Dharma practitioner now, I don't need money, I can go live in a cave, and they give everything away to their teacher. After a few months or years, then they give rise to regret. And in that situation, once you've given rise to regret, it's too late, because you're broke. And not only that, your family are going to think that you've been conned. They are going to give rise to a negative opinion of spiritual practitioners. And this is something that's happened a lot within Tibetan Buddhism. A family member will become involved in a temple, and then soon they've given everything up in the world, given away their house, and then their children, their family, get the police involved because they think they've been had by a con man. And what this does is it brings the Dharma down. It ruins things for others in future time. So as I said, then there's these negative karmas. One, the negative karma of selling the Dharma, and also the negative karma of rejecting the Dharma. And from engaging in the spiritual path in a transactional way, then both of these negative karmas are generated. And on the basis of that, then both the individual and the Dharma is harmed. And it also closes the gates to liberation for many people, because they will end up rejecting the Dharma. They'll see it to be something negative. And anyway, awakening and enlightenment are free. They don't cost anything. Well, when I say they don't cost anything, that's not quite true. You need to apply yourself. So you need to have diligence and forbearance. These two are very important. Without them, there's really no way to progress on the spiritual path. So check yourself out. If you're thinking that it might just be easier to get a subscription in order to make progress on your spiritual path, and you do that out of laziness or lack of diligence, then I would have to say that 100% you're fooling yourself. Things are going to go wrong. Anyway, don't let yourself be had on the spiritual path. Don't fall prey to the charlatans. And as I said, there are many of them out there. It's my sincere wish that you should find happiness, peace, and well-being, and progress swiftly on the spiritual path until final awakening. So until next time, then see you later.